Hi, glad you could tune in. We're going to make an attempt to answer another one of your questions that you gave in response to the survey that we sent out on drawing realistic hands. It's always a great opportunity for us to, know how we can best, suit your needs and know what some of your questions are. So I'll let Jeremy go ahead and let you know what that question is, and I'll try and answer it.
Right, great. Thank you, Darrell. Appreciate that. And let's go ahead and start with a recap of what we've covered in this series so far. So in video number 1, Darrell talked about getting the proportions correct when you're drawing realistic hands. The proportions and the shape and the perspective, basically just getting it to look like a realistic hand. That was an issue that a lot of you had faced, and we wanted to get into that first. So that was video number 1. Video number 2, we talked about how to create contour and depth and dimension when you're drawing hands. One issue that I remember specifically from the survey, someone said that their hands came out looking wooden and just not lifelike or realistic. So Darrell talked about how to use gradation and dedicating lines to add that contour and realism to your drawings. And now today in part 3 of 3, we're going to talk about the details, and specifically how much detail is too much. With everything going on in the hands, with the folds, the creases, the expansion lines, fingernails, all of these details, it's super easy to get a little carried away and add so much detail that it becomes distracting. So, Darrell, today's question comes from the survey, and this was one that we picked out, and I think it really sums up what we're going to be addressing and talking about in this video. So here's the trouble they were having. They say the creases, the skin texture, and the nails are problematic. There appears to be many details on the hand, and it gets a little overwhelming. So if I'm drawing hands at a distance, what information do I need to include versus a close-up, and what do I leave out? How much detail do we need to add? Is there a point where it becomes distracting? What can you tell us about this?
Wow, that's maybe a hard one to illustrate because there's so much to that question, but it is a real common situation that I know a lot of people that like to draw get themselves into. I like to be able to apply some of those fundamentals like I talked about yesterday, dedicating a line, certainly looking for angles and curves. Those are some of our most important things. But obviously when we're looking at something at a distance, we're not going to be able to see all the detail. And even in a drawing, it's hard when you don't have enough room, or you're going to have to decide when it's a small drawing how much information there is actually going to you're going to have room for to communicate what you want to communicate. And sometimes it can get so busy you're not obligated to go ahead and put everything you see. And the next problem is that often we try to imagine what might be there that we really can't see well. And I think that's a big mistake. I always like to try to do it very basically with my edges to value, my clean edges, so that I have my depth, dedicating the lines so that I can show something behind something else, trying to differentiate between just a clean edge and a contour. And there's some real differences in some of those things. But I don't want to put everything I see until I see how it's going to complement my subject. And so I might very well, even though I love detail, throw out some things. And, just make sure that I don't crowd it in there just because I'm determined, I love detail, I'm going to get every little tiny little thing that I think I see. Because sometimes it just isn't going to complement your drawing at all, and I want to think more about how it communicates than anything else. The subject that we've been working on with these hands was an emotional subject for many people, and it was actually called Daddy's Hands, because that is the main thing that we want to try to communicate. When somebody's looking at your drawing, you want to help them see from their experience something in there too. It's not always a matter of what we're determined they're going to be able to see in our artwork, but we want to be able to go back to their experience. It might be with their dad or something like that, and a grandpa, or somebody they just saw that just really said a lot. So let me just show you real quick. I have these reference photos that, well, actually they're prints, but anyway, these reference photos that I have for that project, and I just want to show you the difference. As you know, this is a very light one. I often go ahead and print my work out, or the reference out in a number of values. I'll make one a little darker than this one, and one darker than that one if there's an opportunity to do that, and one extremely dark, because it helps me to just read things in the photograph or reference that I may not have seen one way or another. On the other hand, this is very simple, and if I start making this too dark, I end up by seeing things that I may get carried away with and end up by just putting too much in there. But watch what happens when we start getting smaller. We're going to see all these wrinkles in this version, and when we go here, it's a little harder to make them out, and when we go to this one, it's a little harder to make it out, and when we go to this one, you see that some of this detail in here is very, very, very general, and it's very good to, when you're looking at something from a distance, and you have to do a full-figured person or something, to keep it very simple and give yourself the opportunity to add in what is going to really make it effective. And I think those things are clean edges so that we can separate elements of our drawing, showing something that's back and something that's forward. So we do that with shadows, and we also do that with where's our highlights. We can tell where the light is shining when it's coming in maybe this direction. We can tell by the shadows that are being cast and all those things that will help us know the dimension of this hand and everything by how the light is hitting on it. Now, the light hitting on there is something that sometimes is hard to see. So that's where once in a while I'll go to something very extreme just to see which were the brightest highlights. It just might be a real good aid for you, because it's easy to look at something like this and get everything very neutral, very much the same. And now we lose that impact of what's in front and what's behind and how is the light hitting our subject. And that light hitting the subject is very important for the drama we want to have in there, the emotion and all those different things. And as we go darker, we end up by seeing more and more detail. Well, I can just say, wow, look at how this is all kind of modeled, and I see all these little, different colorations and values changing in the hands. But if I did all that, I might take away the opportunity for me to be able to have the important elements stand out and show the gradation between it's a little deeper in this crease than it is out here. And I want to notice those things. And if I print something too dark, or I start looking at all the other detail, look at how some of these things almost get to be the same all the way across. And this is something that can be an aid to you, or it can be something where you can get too involved in the detail and too distracted with it. Even with a light picture like this, you can start trying to look at every little variance and make too much out of it. Look at your drawings when you're drawing and see what you are maybe not seeing, or try not to draw things that you can't see. Those are several different things that might help you, and keep it very basic. Then when you add things that will complement your drawing and help it to maintain the balance and not take away from the depth and the contour and the drama of the light on it, then I think you're going to have a pretty good opportunity. So again, the smaller it goes, the simpler, the less and less detail. You'll see that some of these creases here, some of these expansion lines in our hands will be much more discernible here than they will be here. And we also can't tell the value of them, and that's so important if we want to have contour, because there's a light and dark to each one of these as they go up and around into the light and back into the shadow again of all of these different expansion lines. And that's really interesting with expansion lines. I mean, this is the same thing with our mouth, our smile lines and all those things. These are all, we don't see the lines here. We can see where there's evidence of a crease here. But when I go like this, it gathers. And that's the same thing a lip does when it's relaxed. It has those little gathered lines in the lip. And when we smile big, then they start coming and, smoothing out. And so we really want to learn and, learn how to see, learn what information is important and what's not. And I know that's the question you're asking, but those might give you a few hints. And I also want to tell you that this is going to be out. You're able to buy this series now. It's called Daddy's Hands, and it's how to draw lifelike hands that will tell a story. And I hope that's the case, because I want that to be your possibility for anything you draw, not to just put something that's just very basic, although there's an opportunity for that too, but to create something, again, that's going to draw somebody in. And the pun is intended. I guess it just works. Have somebody be compelled to look at your art more and more. You can bring some aspect of it out, and it doesn't necessarily have to be every single solitary thing that you saw in your subject, but the things that really make it work. So I hope that helps you a little bit, and I'll pass it back to Jeremy.
All right. Well, thank you, Darrel, very much. Detail can be pretty overwhelming at times and a big obstacle to overcome. So we appreciate any advice you can give us. So thank you. And like Darrel said, this new series is available. Daddy's Hands is available today. And, we're pretty excited about this series. It's actually a first for us. We've never done anything specifically involving hands. So it's a first in that regard, but there was just such a need for it, so many requests for something about drawing hands, that we got together and we saw this subject and we just thought this was perfect. And it was a big hit in Art Studio. We really enjoyed getting together and working on this over the weeks, and we think the end product is pretty amazing. And right now, because we want to make this as available to as many people as possible and at the most affordable price possible, we're offering it for 50% off if you decide to add it to your collection and bring it home. And that's just during our special introductory price, though, so that's not going to last too long. And Darrel, like I said, it was an awesome project. It really came out well, and I think yesterday you showed it for a little bit, but I'm wondering if you could pull it out again.
Oh, sure. Hey, let's take a look at that. This is what we finished in class, and again, you could come in with more. I could just keep getting carried away probably with detail. I love detail, but again, I tried to come up with something that was going to complement the subject and not overpower. So I have to decide, am I going to make too much out of the suit, his jacket, and then overwhelm the hands, or how am I going to keep the hands the focus if I put them maybe too dark or too light. Those are all good decisions, to make. And that's why I like to build my drawing up layering not only values, but for the quality of, the textures and things like that. I just like to build it and see the balance. I like to build it overall, taking my 4H into the darkest areas first and then expanding out, and allowing myself to continue to add and add and to add until I get down to those, places that are going to be maybe the brightest, and have that opportunity to have that impact. There's a lot of wonderful contrasts, as I probably said before. I like contrast in value, and contrast in detail, and contrast in edges and contours, and sometimes those are the things that are really going to be the most important. Anyway, go ahead and take the opportunity to keep looking at your subjects in a new way, I hope, and learn how to see, and there'll be something with real impact. It'll bring a lot more enjoyment to your drawing too.
Right, yes. So if you're ready for that next big project, this is it. If you're ready for some inspiration and a whole new skill set, this is your chance. Like I said, it's now available. It's available for 50% off for a short time. And for an even shorter time, we're also offering a free gift. So we'll let you check out the webpage for more information about that. But again, thank you so much for your time. And this series, I just want to say real quickly, this isn't something you have to be a seasoned artist to draw. Darrel he draws step by step. That's how this method works. And like Darrel said, there's layers involved. We start at the bare basics, the layout, and then we work our way up slowly but surely. So don't feel intimidated if you're not too familiar with the 5-pencil method. We have a lot of free material that can get you up to speed. And even if you don't get this the way you want it to look the first time, you've got the DVDs, you've got the downloads. You can go back as much as you want, watch it over and over and over until you get it perfect. And I mean, what's perfect? I don't think we ever quite reached that. But anyway, again, it's available. Hope you'll take a look. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we hope you enjoyed this series. As always, we want you to give us some feedback. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever it may be, just go ahead and leave it in the comments boxes below, and we'll do our best to get back to you. And if you want to learn more about the DVD or the downloads, there's going to be a little box right underneath this video. You'll see it. It's kind of in between the video and the comments. Just click that, and you'll get sent to the web page, and you can actually see some of the student artwork. You can read more about each lesson and what's involved. You can see some more of Darrel's images and ultimately bring it home if that's what you want. So take a look, and we hope to be sending yours out soon. So thank you so much. Take care.
Yeah, wonderful. Bye.